think I made Christy really nervous because we rehearsed how to say my last name. It's Gilchrist. Also, I was told that I could sit, so I'm gonna sit. Before I start talking about me, which I'm excited to do, I'm staring at Cam as I said that. I wanted to start with a story about identity and a recent trip home that I just took. So, a few years ago, my parents moved to Springfield, Illinois, and that's the land of Lincoln. And they have a really wonderful museum in Springfield dedicated to Lincoln. I love it. I think it's super special. But what I really like about it is at no point are they trying to paint a perfect picture of Lincoln. Basically, when you walk in, and throughout the whole experience, they're trying to show you all sides to him. And when you first go in, you get to see his boyhood cabin, which is really cute. But it has a little plaque that I really love that talks about how Lincoln is so much more than just a monument. Monuments are not happy or sad. They're not embarrassed or ashamed. They don't make mistakes. They don't stumble. They don't make you laugh. They don't make you cry. A monument is just one version of something. And so this museum works really hard to show us all of the different sides to not just Lincoln, but to his whole family. And it's very emotional. I always cry at some point in the museum. I thought that was really important. I thought about it a lot when I was home and then thinking about this talk, because identity is always shifting, and we have these ideas of who we want to be, or who we are, or who people are, or who they're not. And I think it's important to just remember that our identities are very fluid, and we may wake up one person and go to sleep somebody totally different. To bring that to food, I think all of us identify with food. We all have our favorite meals, our favorite snacks, our favorite food, things we like to eat, things that we eat culturally. And I think it's really wonderful how in our different cultures we have, traditional foods and things that we expect to eat. But what I really love the most, and similar to my little story about Lincoln, is about how we can take these traditional or cultural foods and we can change them and we can make them our own and we can shift them and play with them. And so I think it's really fun to be able to have strong roots in the identity of food, but then to also change it and make food whatever we want to ourselves, and it can still have a lot of meaning and be really special. We can revere our food cultures, but also understand their complexities. And that's really what I wanted to get across by giving you the whole Lincoln spiel. It's just understanding the complexity of food and the identity of it. So all that to say, I love food. I love the identity of food to our culture. And my identity is completely intertwined with food, and that's what I will continue to talk about. My identity as a baker. I thought this would be really fun. So I'm going to talk to you all about my identity as a baker and sort of how I got to where I am now. So I'm going to tell you sort of about growing up and all of my experience with food. But since I didn't make a presentation, I thought it would be more fun if I brought my first cookbooks and we could pass them around, because this is basically like show and tell. And these are cookbooks that I had when I was 5. So I'll bring them over to you, Christy, and you can just flip through them. The first one is, everyone here obviously has an American Girl doll, I'm sure. So I'll really identify with Molly. I was here for like every Halloween. And she's a really good deviled egg recipe. This is the children's step-by-step cookbook, and I think They do a really killer job on how you should set up your kitchen. And then this is my favorite. It's my first baking book, which it was, and I think they have a really good chocolate chip recipe. And then the last one is my family cookbook. It's the Joy of Cooking. It's the Joy of Cooking. And at some point I'll reference a recipe that my dad and I used to make together from here, but it's full of like my mom's notes, and it's super stained, and it's covered in batter and sugar, and I feel like it's a really wonderful reflection of who I am. So. A lot of times I think people are really curious to understand the Harbinger and our recipes, and to me, all of our recipes are so obvious to me because I make them, but also because they're just so a part of me. So I think a lot of times people really want to understand how they're created in my mind, and I think it's important to go all the way back to little baby Greer to talk about that. When I was really little, I would wake up before anybody else and like with such conviction go downstairs to my little play school kitchen table and like manically draw. Like there was this art that I had to get out of me, and I had to get it out before 6 a.m. when my parents woke up, and I would produce some like 20 copies of beautiful artwork. So I had this really intense creative aspect to me. Do y'all know the Babysitters Club?
Yes.
I'm referencing a lot of my coolness. So Claudia was one of the babysitters, and she was the super great one. She was the coolest for sure. I always wondered why she was friends with the rest of them. But she was the artist, and she also loved sugar. Like she would hide sugar in her bedroom, which I really related to, and I for sure did. But I was really drawn to being creative, and I thought I would be an artist, and then like it was so clear I'm not an artist. But I had this, creative energy to get out. My first real memory of like actual food pleasure, where I was like, oh my God, this is insane. I think I was like 5, and I was making sugar cookies with my mom, and I ate some of the dough. And I still remember just like that complete euphoria. I had never tasted something so incredible in my life before, and I ate so much cookie dough, and I made myself sick, which is a pattern I repeat daily. I'm always feeling sick from eating too much sugar. That's just trying to show you just how much I love food and being creative. And then with food on Sundays, my dad and I, we would make pancakes together. My mom and I always cooked together. We would watch Julia Childs together. My best friend and I made cooking videos together. At breakfast time, my brothers and I would pull out all of our cookbooks and just read them for entertainment. I was so obsessed with food, and we got a dog, a golden retriever. Her name was Cassie, and she was just like insanely food obsessed, just like 100% food motivated, ate obscene amounts of food, and I was just like, yes, I can relate to you. You and I are the same. Traveling was entirely food motivated also for me. When I went to for example, when I went to Paris, I have no photos of the Eiffel Tower, but I do have a photo of my picnic spread that I ate while everyone else looked at the Eiffel Tower. So it's just a huge part of who I am. And although our identities do shift, if you knew me when I was a little girl or at any point in my life, you would never be surprised to see that now food is still a huge part of my life and my identity. So that's just a little bit of my background, my personal background. To give a little bit of a history behind why I continue to work in food. I always worked in bakeries growing up, and out of college I felt the need that I had to go and get a real job where I had benefits, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, all of those things. So I quit working in this bakery I was working at in Boston, and I worked in marketing. And I worked there for about 6 months, and I was supposed to help market like sofas and chairs and things like that. And I was so ridiculously bad at that job because I could not care less about selling anybody a sofa or a chair. I was so incredibly apathetic. And it was the most sad I have ever felt in my life. And I just felt depressed, and it's really made me question life and what are we doing and why are we doing it if every day I was just reporting to this job that I couldn't care less about, to encourage people to buy things that I really didn't think that they would ever need. And on my lunch breaks, I would just go to all of the different bakeries and cafes in Boston. My favorite one being Flour. And I forgot her cookbooks. It's at the Harbinger. But if you're ever at the Harbinger, you should read it because I love Flour a lot. They had one location then, and now I think they have 10. But anywho, eventually I dwindled down to part-time. Then eventually I just quit altogether. Went traveling for a while. Came back refreshed and went back into working in food full force. But that was just a really important lesson for me because it made me understand that I would never be able to give my 110% to anything unless I really cared about it. And the only thing that I really, really cared about was food and cooking food for other people. And then eventually I moved to DC, which is where I met Pam, who's up there with me. And she's somewhere in the audience if you want to play like, where's Waldo? But with Pam, I'll look this way, even though she's that way. So this is my favorite story to tell, and I've told it a lot, and I know Cam's sick of hearing it, and maybe you've heard it before, but Cam and I became friends working at a bakery, and then even after we stopped, it was a cafe actually, but even after we stopped working there, we're friends. And one day we were meeting at a cafe that we loved in DC called the Y Down, and we had toyed with the idea of talking about opening up cafes or just doing things in a way that we both liked. And one day we met at this cafe, and it was rainy, and she had just come back from New York City, so she was all inspired. And she just sat down and immediately was like, I think we should open up a cafe, and this is what I want it to look like, let's do it. And I was just like, okay. But it was one of those moments, you have those talks all the time with people where you're like, let's do this. But I knew in that moment that it was going to happen, and it was going to be with Cam, and my okay was basically like signing a contract. And so that's basically the backdrop to the Harb and to now Harkin. The other question that we get a lot is why the Harbinger or Harkin are different. So the identity of the Harb and Harkin to us is that they are different, and everything behind them, every recipe, everyone that works with us, everything has a meaning to it. And it's usually, I like to say that everything has a lot of heart behind it. And I think that's what makes them different and special. So now I'll talk a little bit on the Harb and Harkin's identity and why they are different. When I first moved to DC, I was so excited to explore the city because it's so fun when you travel to be able to see what those cities eat. And I was so excited to go to all the different cafes and all the different bakeries, but I started to get really disappointed because in every neighborhood, and there's a lot of different neighborhoods in DC, they were all serving the same coffee and they were all getting the same bakeries from this same wholesale bakery. And it just felt so sterile and watered down and like such an afterthought. Like everything seemed like an afterthought. And what's fun about living in a city is to explore all the different food, but then also when someone visits you, it's really exciting to be like, look at this really special thing that you can only find here in my city. And it makes you so proud of your neighborhood, your city, your identity in that city. And so, you know, DC has changed now. This was a while ago, but I just remember feeling so sad about that and wishing that we could have some more diversity in our food. So that's a lot of why we try to make Harbinger and Harkin so different, because croissants, banana muffins, all those things are super delicious. But you can get that a lot of places, and you should, they're great. But when you come to the Harbinger, you can just get our special, weird, unique, delicious things just at our two bakeries. And I really like that. I think it's exciting then because a lot of times we have regulars come in with their parents and they're so excited to show them the case and be like, I like this, but you might like this. And it's really fun because you can't get a black and blue anywhere else except for Creative Mornings. We're like a cha-cha-chia, or hopefully a sriracha mama. I hope all of you were forced into eating one of those and loved it. But that's a lot about why it's so important to us to be different, because we want to be a really special place to everybody, and we want you to be proud to show us to your communities. And then another thing I think is really important about food identity that the Harbinger and Harkin work hard to promote is, again, being different, but also being different but staying true to what we really believe. So a lot of our recipes can be connected to little 5-year-old Greer, or things that Cam ate when she was growing up. Like, there's always a story around them that's connected to us, and I think that's what allows us to make things that appeal to other people. So to wrap up my thoughts on identity, I want to talk about community and our connection to our community of Harbinger and Harkin, like our team, as well as our community of our regulars and our customers and our guests. The most important aspect of both of our businesses are our teams. We spend a really long time finding the right people to work with us, and we invest a lot in the people that work with us. And that's really important to us because at the end of the day, a lot of the times, they're the ones that y'all are seeing. The front of house girls, they're the ones that are interacting with you, so they are becoming our identity. The people who work in the kitchen, they're the ones that are making you the black and blues, the salads. And I have always felt, as I have, journeyed through so many cafes and bakeries, that I really wanted to be a part of the identity of the cafes and bakeries. And so we work really hard to make sure that our team can feel that they are our identity. I have a lot more to say, but I'm going to wrap it up. I hope that I've been clear on identity and on me, and I hope I represented Cam well, and on the Harbinger and on Harkin. But to close it, what I wanted to say is that I think in the end that we all just want to matter in some way and somehow to ourselves and to our communities. At the end of the day, my identity revolves around mattering to those who matter to me. I want to make you happy, I want to make you smile, I want to make you feel loved, I want to make you feel seen and heard. And I want you to know that I care. And it's not just rhetoric, it's not just me saying I see you, it's proving it day in and day out. That's what makes me wake up every day, are the communities of the Harbinger and Harkin. So to our community and to all of you, I want to thank everyone for letting me make the manic artist and 5-year-old me have her dreams come true. And I want to thank our communities for making me feel like I matter. Thank you for letting me take care of you. And most of all, thank you for letting me feed you.
I wanna make a change.